I think the most important thing you need to know about Brad is that despite the fact that his life is extremely busy and he could be doing a million other things, he's committed time and effort and his resources to SUU, both being here but also as part of the entrepreneurship program. He's a member of the ELC with the entrepreneurship program, and just really has a really deep desire to help serve students. And so I hope you really pay close attention to Brad and his story and what he's done, because not only can he teach you and help you today, but he'll probably be a great resource for you in the future, someday, especially if you're interested in entrepreneurship and business and working on those things in your life. So we're really grateful to have Brad and his wife Jenny here, who's right over here. We're grateful they made the trek, and even with snow on the ground, they've come and spent some time with us today. So without further ado, let's give Brad a round of applause.
All right, so hopefully you can hear me okay, right? You guys are all able to hear me well enough. It is so fun for me to be here at SUU. I love this campus. My wife and I were driving down from the hotel. We were just driving down memory lane. The house, I feel so old. And I don't think I'm old, but I feel old when I'm like, the house we lived in doesn't exist. It's been replaced by a bigger apartment and other things like that. But for us, we were driving down, we were just talking about our memories here, and we have such fun memories being here at SUU. It's so fun for me to be back here. And like Landon said, I'm hoping that someday soon that I'm able to give back to you in ways that SUU gave back to me. And so it's been a blessing for me for my whole life. My education here at SUU has been a blessing for me for my whole life. So I do want to start off with just my family, a little bit about, I think we skipped one. Yeah, there we go. So this is my family. They're big. So my daughter is, she's just getting home or she'll be getting home from a mission. My oldest daughter will be getting home from a mission in Chile. And I had full expectation that she was coming to SUU. We planned it. My wife and I have a scholarship fund that we thought maybe she could even apply for. I know that's a violation, but at least it kind of was trying to get some incentive to get her here. She said she wanted to come to SUU. As of September, she wanted us to make sure that she got enrolled at SUU. And then she called us 2 weeks ago and said she's choosing BYU. And I already bleed red from SUU. I also bleed red from football for University of Utah. So it was really, really hard for me to accept that. But but she's chosen to go to BYU. We're excited for her. We're super happy for her. But I really wish she was down here. My mom asked me the other day, she said, so what do you think about Michaela going to BYU? And I said, honestly, we're disappointed. And Jenny was in the car with me, and she's like, we're disappointed. So, but we are proud of her. She's an amazing girl. Our other daughter's going to Snow College, a good little step for her to go to Snow. And then she tells us she's coming to SUU. So we're going to try to keep that going. Maybe someday tuition would be an offer for them, and it may get them to choose to come here. Trevor, our son, he's a freshman in high school. That's a little bit old picture. He's changed quite a bit. And then Riker's in sixth grade. So a couple things about our family, just a couple little slogans. Train your mind to see everything that's good. Really focus on the good and the good in everything. And without rain, things don't grow. And so we just believe that as a family. We have our challenges just like everybody else, and we learn as a family to grow through those challenges and to overcome challenges. It's a strong thing for us to be able to do. And I think that's good for all of us to understand that life is full of challenges. You do not have to look very far to find out that people's lives are not as good as they seem on the outside or on social media. You'll find out that there's real truth in the way people really are. So that's about my family. My wife, I didn't mention. My wife also, we started here, SUU, in 1998. We were married, and this was the place. We lived right across the street from the frat houses, really. That's where we lived. And it's now just all changed. But I was in student government, and I was an ambassador here. SUU was an awesome experience for me. So about my education, I did get my bachelor's degree from SUU in biology and chemistry. So I know that any of you guys that are entrepreneurs are saying, or business people at all, you're gonna say, why on earth are you speaking to us about business? I plan on going to medical school. When we came here, I got accepted into medical school. And kind of a weird experience, a unique experience that's really changed my life forever, happened while I was going through the little graduation lines. you're kind of gathering your cap. You guys will be there. I know you're excited. So you gather your cap and ground. You make sure all your documentation's in place. And then this lady, and I don't even remember who she is. I can kind of still envision who, like coming up to me. She said, "Have you ever thought about getting an MBA?" And I'm like, "No, I'm a scientist. I'm going to be a doctor. I don't really care about getting my MBA." And I went home. I remember going home that day and telling my wife, Jenny, I said, "I had the weirdest thing happen today. This lady asked me if I wanted to get my MBA. And I said, maybe it would help me when I'm a doctor in the future to actually understand business." And so I said, maybe we should consider this. Wait another year, get some other things in order, retake the MCAT so I can get accepted to some other schools. And so I decided to sign up for the executive MBA program at SUU. And that experience has changed my life. I quickly gave away my thought. I still like sciences. I still help my kids with math homework. I still do those kinds of things. But my passion is absolutely business and entrepreneurship. And it's just been a great thing for me. It's been wonderful. So accepted med school, learned about the MBA, got my MBA from SUU, and then kind of just a crazy on a whim. A stupid whim, really, maybe. I don't know. I decided to get my doctorate in business at the University of Florida. Florida, there's about 10 schools in the country that do these DBA programs. They're not a PhD program where you're required to be on campus all the time. They're more of an executive style for people that have been in careers for years and maybe want to go back and teach or do some other things, or consultants that want to add something to their end of their name, a couple more initials. At the end of their name. So I actually got my doctorate degree. I graduated in 2020 from the University of Florida with my doctorate degree. My dissertation was written on initial coin offerings in cryptocurrency. So kind of I caught the craze that everyone else was catching at that time and learned a lot about it. So that's a fun thing for me. But eventually I was talking to some of the professors and the dean here. Eventually I do want to come back here and teach. That's my long-term goal, is to be able to come back here and be a professor at SUU. So hopefully that'll be my retirement dream coming up. So when I get older and grow up. So a little bit about my background, and I'm going to kind of go through this fast because I'm going to talk about So the bulleted points are companies I worked for. The smaller points are businesses that I started while I was doing this. So we're going to talk about those businesses. I started my career off at Schreiber Foods. Still loved business. Started my career off at Schreiber Foods, which is basically it's a cheese company based out of Green Bay, Wisconsin. And so we ended up spending some time out in Green Bay. I liked it. I like management a lot. I love leadership. I'm really, really passionate about that. I met a guy in Green Bay that became the general manager at Lazy Boy. So I came to Lazy Boy in Tremont, in Utah, and it was awesome for a year. And I had a dream the day before I started my job that they closed. That I moved from Green Bay. My family came out. I drove up to the factory to start my job, and they announced the plant was closed. After all that, and a year after I started, they drove out and told us that they were closing our facility. So then it was like, oh crap, what do I do? Got a job for Hostess. Unfortunately, Hostess closed their doors as well. It's a trend that I think was starting to tell me you need to start doing something else. Then I spent some time with CSM, which is a company. I covered basically 5 states for CSM in operations management. And then I worked kind of at that point, we had started our business that I'm going to talk about later, Rapid Financial Solutions. And it was getting to the point where I really needed to commit more time to it. And trying to manage 5 regional areas just wasn't working out well for me. So I had an opportunity to join a company called Arbiter Sports. And I joined a role there that helped me kind of bridge a gap. It's almost a sister company to what we actually had started. And so working for them as the COO helped me further our business at Rapid. And so some of my regrets, we'll talk about that, but I think I waited too long. And then of course with Rapid Financial Solutions, the company that I'm currently with, and excited. It's been a lot of fun. So we're going to talk about some of the businesses. If you want to talk about professional career management, I'm happy to talk to you about that, but I am more passionate about kind of the entrepreneurial spirit. I talked to somebody earlier today. I said, I feel like the mind of an entrepreneur is like somebody that's addicted to crack, because you're always wanting it. You're always wanting more. It's just constantly, we joked, my wife and I were just talking, we were driving in the car, and our youngest son's got some special needs, and he has accidents from time to time. And so my wife came up with this genius idea to put a nursing pad in his underwear. And it's awesome. It helps like stop. And I'm like, we need to create something that there's lots of kids out there that have this issue. We need to create something and it's just, that's an example of just your mind is always going as an entrepreneur. It's just, it's in your blood. And it's fun. Like for me, it's fun. She thought she was marrying a guy that was going to go to med school. Nice, secure future, wonderful, everything's good. I mean, a little bit of school debt, but after that, it's pretty much debt-free life. And we constantly mortgaged our home to try to start our businesses, and it's been a trial. So any of you guys that want to be entrepreneurs, make sure you select your spouse. If you haven't already, make sure you're very selective on finding somebody that cares the same way you do about those things. So first business is actually here in Cedar City, Utah. So Snowy, USA. We started a little Snowy stand. We did it outside of I think our first event was the Utah Summer Games. We had our Snowy at the Utah Summer Games, and it was fun. We learned some cool stuff. One of the things we learned was that you can actually we could be at a movie and be making money because other people were there. It was like, this is a cool little thing. You can actually make money without being there for a business. We also learned that location is really important. I don't remember the grocery store, but we looked at putting it in front of there, and then we ended up putting it in front of Walmart. We realized that Walmart has a lot more traffic than other places. And so that turned out to be a very successful thing for us. We did find out, though, that employees make a big difference. We had one employee that decided one day that it would be fun to have a water fight out the window of the Snowy booth in front of Walmart. That doesn't go over well with Walmart. They don't appreciate those kinds of things going on in your businesses. So you can make a huge mistake if you just turn it over to people without managing them. So that was kind of some fun little stuff that we learned there. We'll go to a couple other businesses. We had this dream once to start this. Eternal Legacy was an LLC that we started. We thought it'll be so fun to get our families, like my wife comes from a big family, get our families together and start doing investments and doing these little businesses that would help our family have this legacy forever that our kids could pick up and they could take on. And so we started flipping houses. And this is the first house that we flipped. And it was good. Like we were making good money. It had the potential of being really good. We bought some cows. We thought we could kind of get into that because we had a little bit of farming experience with my wife's family. And so we kind of did those things. But what we realized really quickly is if you don't have the right operating agreement and some of the structure in place when you first start your business, it can go bad really fast. And family just makes that a little bit more complex. And so we didn't have a good, clear, like playing ground, rules to the game to start things off, and it made it challenging. There were some challenges for us along that process. But we did have success. We didn't lose any money on those businesses. We set ourselves up kind of nicely for some of the future things that we did. So a couple other businesses along the way. We started a company called GLT Squared, which is really, that was real estate. It was at the time of the housing crash, which apparently is going to be happening here pretty soon again. So we bought this house in Phoenix for $65,000 in Phoenix. And so we were going to buy that, and then we were going to buy more homes, and then we were renting them, and then we were going to flip them. And I did this with family as well. I didn't learn my lesson quite as much the first time. I did this with family as well. And so they quickly got out of the game. We bought them out, and then we sold the house. We had done really well, but now we look at that same house and what it's worth today for what we sold it for. We're like, we should have just held on to it longer. But that was a fun business. For us, it was starting to get our ground going, and we started seeing some things. In the meantime, started this company called, or this smoothie store in Ogden. We did a Smoothie King. And for me, this was our first real big loss as a family. We had our cars all paid off, and we took out loans against our cars to be able to buy into this. So we bought in, it was about $90,000 that we bought in to build out this Smoothie King store. And after about 7 months, we realized that it was not going to make it. And so we tried really hard to protect ourselves the best we could. So we owner financed for one of our managers to take it over. She declared bankruptcy. And so we learned a few things about that. One, retail space is hard. If you want to get into retail space, if you think you've got this great idea for a restaurant or a business or something that's going to be in a retail space, it's difficult. And so one thing that I've learned, and it's helped me forevermore, is whenever I'm in office space, or I'm renting or leasing any type of real estate or property for my businesses, I do everything I can to shorten the terms on the contract. Everything I can to make sure that that is as short as it possibly can be. Because we had a 5-year term on that building. We could get out of the business, we could get out of those things, but we couldn't get out of the lease. And so that carried with us for a long period of time, for 5 years. Even though the business itself didn't work out, we had to carry that lease with us. So that was something that for me, our office building that we're in, we're year to year. Even though our business is really successful, we're still year to year on our office lease because we don't want to be bound by a contract. So that's something that was really valuable to me. The other thing we did is we got way too much space. We thought it's really a drive-through business. Smoothies stores, Swigs, the drink shops, all these kinds of places, they're really a drive-through business. 90% of your business is done through a drive-through. And we had 1,200 square feet of just dining space for nobody to be in. And so those are things that we learned along the way that were really valuable. Those lessons are not taught in school, but they're really something that helped me out a lot as I learned through this. Moving on to the next one. I was passionate about cryptocurrency. I told you that. One of the guys that I met in our doctorate program was crazy successful with those seminar programs where they come in and they do the seminar they teach you about something, and he had done really well. I think he sold his business for $95 million. And he was super, super successful. And we thought, man, there is an opportunity to use his knowledge, this mentor, use his knowledge and apply it to help people invest in cryptocurrency. Because people still don't know how it works. They don't understand how this works. And so we're like, this is perfect. It's a great opportunity. And the market, there's a lot of buzz around cryptocurrency at the time. There's a lot of buzz about investing in it and turning your money really quickly. All those things were all true. And so we started this seminar group. We were going to do on the circuits. We were going to do all the things that this guy had success in. And it just took too long for us to really dive in and jump in and get that going. We had our first seminar, we had success, but the market quickly changed on cryptocurrency. And so those are life lessons that are really important, but I learned a lot, and it's helped me in my own life because I still play around in cryptocurrency. It's fun for me. It's intriguing. We started another business called Dropcom, which was an Amazon reseller business. And at this time, there's a ton of opportunities for these types of businesses out in the world. And if you want to get in that, that's wonderful. It's great. The challenge with those are inventory costs and space and all those kinds of things that you typically know what to deal with. For us, this one would have been very successful for us, but we just didn't apply. I'm going to talk about it in a second, but we didn't go all in. We didn't go all in on the business. And when you don't go all in on the business and you're kind of doing it half-baked, I'm working over here, I'm doing this, and then I'm trying to a couple hours a day kind of manage this little piece of business. It's really hard to do that. It has the potential, and we were getting great discounts on stuff, and we were reselling it, and it was working, but we never really committed ourselves to it. And that's something that, as I talk about my experience with Rapid Financial and some other businesses, it wasn't until I went all in that I was able to be successful. Whenever you're worried about other things and you're not committed all in, it's impossible to be successful because your passion is the key for the success of the business. And if your passion isn't there all the time, no one else is going to have that same passion for your business. Everyone else is going to treat it like a job. Every other person around you will treat it just like a job, like any other job, except for you. You have that passion. And so by trying to instill that in somebody else initially is very difficult. But that one that had a lot of potential. We bought the inventory at a really good deal, but we just didn't go all in on it. So now we'll come to the companies that I think there's one other slide right before this one. Maybe not. Okay, maybe I deleted it. All right, so I deleted the other one. So this, I was reading in the Forbes, I don't know how many months ago, several months ago, and I came across this 5 levels of entrepreneurship by this individual. His name is Farshad Asi. He's got YouTube stuff and stuff. Later I learned this from him, but I really liked what he talked about. So I'm going to try to just share with you my business experience and my own business and how these principles have applied for me. I did leave out, there's one other company, Arbiter Sports. So Arbiter Sports is a company, I don't know if any of you guys are sports officials in here? Just one sports official. There's only one person that's willing to do that anymore. Oh, one more. All right, good. So my business partner, really close friend of mine, who I did several of those businesses with, he and I went to school together. We were friends in elementary school. We were friends in high school. We started business. We have very different skill sets, and it makes us very complementary, so it works well together. But he was a ref. He reffed a game in Layton High School. I'm going to tell you this story because part of the reason part of the things I'm going to teach you is you got to know the why of your business. Why are you doing what you're doing? Why is your business unique, and what makes it going to be successful? So the story I'm going to tell you is our why, on why we started our business. And it is so ingrained in me that I almost feel like I reffed the game that I'm about ready to tell you about. So he was reffing a game. It didn't go very well. He made a critical call that cost the home team the game. Basketball game. We both played basketball in high school. It was a call that affected the game, the outcome of the game. And it was one of those where stuff's getting thrown on the court. So he was back in the referee locker room, whatever that looks like, and he was there waiting for kind of things to calm down, the crowd to clear out and things to calm down. And so as he's walking out, back in 2007, you left they call it a voucher to get paid for games. You left a voucher on the score table. So score table, all the fans are all around. On the voucher has his social security number, his home address, and his personal information so that he can get paid by the athletic director. And he's like, holy cow, everyone in the stadium now knows everything about me. Everything about me. They know where I live. They know everything about me. And the AD was upset enough that he just left it sitting there on the table. And so he's like, this has to change. There has to be a better way to pay sports officials. So he started really digging into this. He talked to me. He started digging into how to do essentially a Venmo. We created a Venmo, but before Venmo was ever around, to pay specifically niche things to pay sports officials. So basically, there's funds in a pooled account that then you can pay individuals. So when you get done refereeing, so I know Jansen, he raised his hand, I know him. So Jansen gets done refereeing a game. He's part of this Arbiter Sports Network, and so he gets money deposited into his Arbiter Pay account. And then as he does these games, more money gets deposited into that account, and then so on and so forth. And then he can ACH the money out, and he can do different things like that with the money. It's kind of a digital account, like a bank account. So he created this, sold it to the state of Utah, ended up selling it to a company called Arbiter, and then it became Arbiter Sports. I went and worked as a COO for them for a time as they were getting ready to make their exit. They were getting ready to sell to private equity, and so I went in for about 2 years and tried to help them get their house in order and get it ready for the sell. And in the meantime, so Arbiter Sports, we started that, and then we said, outside of referees, there are other ways in this world that are other venues that need the same type of solution. And we went to Arbiter, and that time it was owned by the NCAA, and the NCAA is like, we only care about sports officials. We only, narrow focus. We only care about this. And we said, well, there's other opportunities out there, and we want to go explore them. And they said, fine. So they gave us a release to go out and explore other opportunities. So we signed up the Pro Rodeo Cowboy Association. Cowboys have the same problem. They go to a rodeo, they leave, and they go to the next rodeo, and they go to the next rodeo, and the next rodeo, and they have this money that's getting sent in checks back to their house. And they have no way of collecting those funds because they're always on the road. So what happened is they weren't able to keep, while they're out there trying to survive, they weren't able to have their income before they didn't. And for rodeos, individual rodeos, to hold direct deposit account information for every individual just doesn't work. So we started with the Pro Rodeo Cowboy Association. And then we realized that there was a problem. I'll get that in a second. I'll move on in a second. But we realized there was a problem in that we needed other avenues for these guys to get paid, to use money. And so we were like, the prepaid card industry is great. You can get a prepaid card that you can load money onto that prepaid card, and then they can use it. And so we went out searching for a prepaid card processing core, which is the back end ledger basically that says when you swipe a card, it says, yes, there's dollars in this account, go ahead and approve this card. So that's essentially what a processor does for prepaid cards. So we were able to acquire a business, we were able to go out there and we found a processor. And that's really the story of how Rapid started. So we'll go to the first level of entrepreneurship. So this is the first thing that he talks about. You're encouraged. You're ready to do your startup. You're ready to do these things. Encouraged means you've got hope, right? You've got this desire that something out there is great. And for us, we had this desire to get this prepaid card processor. But there's fear. And fear, go ahead and go to the next slide. We'll talk about fear. You guys know what fear is. So here's a couple things that I just kind of highlighted, right? Fear, should I keep, and this is where I was at. And I didn't do what I'm going to tell you guys to do. So hopefully it's the right thing. I was scared to give up my salary. At that point, we were making good money. I mean, well, for us, good money. Maybe not for you guys, but for us, we were making good money. I was in a career that was senior level management. I was making good money. And we had this idea to get this thing going, to get this business going and have this, we saw an opportunity in this prepaid card world to really expand this. But I was scared. And the things you're scared of are, you're scared of everything, right? Everything. What if I fell? What if any of those kinds of things? Especially for me, I had a family. All those things are scary for me. And when you start your business, when you're in that first stage, when you're launching it, your time and your money are your biggest resources in there. And that's scary. So when we started Rapid, Jenny and I went, and so I bought out a couple other individuals as well, invest my own money, and it was $320,000 for us to go in. It was more than our house was worth. It was more than our first two houses combined together. And we said, all right, are we willing to do this? And my wife is incredibly supportive. And that's why when we had our first opportunity to pay our house off, we did, because I owed it to her, because she deserved it, because she put up with all this for so long. But we literally, so we had car loans that we had cars that were paid off again, that we took out loans on that. We had some equity in our home that we took out against that. I convinced my parents, who had paid off their house, to let me take over their home. They were getting older, and I knew that I didn't want the state to have that for them. If things happen in their life, they need to be in assisted living. I wanted to get that house in my name. They let me take their home over and take a mortgage against their house as well. The house they were living in, I took a mortgage against their house, and that put us we were about $120,000 short. I went to 7 banks for signature loans to try to get this going. So I think at the peak of all this, we were making loan payments of $7,000 a month. And scary, right? Fear sets in. It's really scary. And luckily, my wife was supportive, but it's stress. So I'm not going to sit here and say that this is not hard. This is a hard step. When you're in a business and you say, I'm ready to go all in, you have to understand that there's risk. And nobody understands that better than entrepreneurs. Every entrepreneur understands the risks of their business and what's going on. But you have to take calculated risks. You have to be very, very intelligent. You have to start, you've got to develop your business model. You've got to have a marketing plan. You've got to have all these things in place. You've got to have operating agreements and some of the other stuff that I've already mentioned. But you have to understand the why. And that's why I told you the story about Arbiter Sports. We tell that story every sales pitch I go to. We tell that story about the beginning of our company and why we did what we did. That why has to become so natural for you. For me, it wasn't my why. Well, it's our why for a business. It wasn't my why on what happened, but it is my why now. I know the story. I know it intimately. I know which high school. I know all those kinds of things, but you have to understand the why. Why are you different? Like for us, it was a new concept at that time. Digital account that wasn't tied to a bank account. We were doing distributions out. We were controlling. We had to get banks that trusted us to do all of these things. You have to know why you're doing what you're doing and why you're different than everybody else. If you don't know that, if you can't I'm part of the pitch competition groups that come in here and listen to you guys do pitch competitions, those that have done it. If you can't stand up here and confidently tell me the why, you don't have my vote. So in case you're wondering if I'm in the room, you make sure you know your why. You have to know that. You have to know why you're doing what you're doing and what makes you different. I was listening to my cousin's son starting a new business, and he wanted me to give him some feedback. And I'm like, hey, I've looked at 10 companies that do what you're telling me you're doing. Why are you different? Silence. That doesn't work. That doesn't work if you're going all in. It doesn't work. It's not going to work. You cannot be successful. So make sure you know your why. We'll go on to the next one. The next one is engage. So now, this process is, we're going to go through it in less than 30 minutes, and it feels like, okay, great, I've got these steps. It's good. This takes time. All of this stuff takes time. We've been in business for a while. So now you've got your why, you've got your marketing plan, you've got some things, you're ready, you're feeling good about kind of where you're going. You're engaged. Obviously, I told you you're all in. You got to make sure you're all in. But now you're operating, growth is maybe starting to happen. But a lot of this is operating on faith. Faith that there's going to be customers out there. Faith that there's going to be more growth and more opportunity. So we'll go ahead and go to the next slide. So you got to have confidence, right? You've got to be fully engaged. You've got to continue to go back to your why. What makes me different? What makes me successful? How am I going to help this product move forward? How am I going to help my idea reach the market? All those things have to happen. You're getting your sense of purpose. You've got a growth mindset. You're starting to see these things. For us, this was the launch of our first prepaid card program, right? I know it's really rudimentary. We have developers that, we've got better pages than this, but I wanted to show you this because this is the core. This is the gateway into our processing core, which was incredible. The first day that we launched this, and it was fun for me. I was scared to death, but it was fun. Our developers were in India. I love them. I feel super close to them. For us, it made sense for us to invest and go to India to do this. But that meant they're 12 and a half hours ahead of us. So that meant at night, during their daytime when they're programming, guess who was awake? I was taking conference calls in my room, in our bedroom at times. My wife would be like, I don't even understand how you can understand these guys. I can't even hear them. Are they speaking English? And we're talking through this, and we were I was testing cards to make sure that they worked. We were doing all those things in the middle of the night. I was working during the day full time, up all night trying to get this business going. But it was fun for me. I was loving it. We were starting to get this foundation. We were starting to see light. So our first card program that we launched, aside from Arbiter Sports to the referees, we do cards when people get released from jail to get their commissary goods, put back their commissary funds onto a prepaid card when they leave jail. And so the purpose of that is a lot of inmates are given a check or something like that when they get released from jail, and it happens all day and all night that they're released. It is a real challenge for them to be able to get money and get out of there. They need to leave. They need to get transportation. They need to do these kinds of things. So we were sponsored by MasterCard. We went and found a bank that was willing to go all in with us. And we're sponsored by MasterCard to issue these cards. So this is our first product. And I remember we were issuing 5,000 cards a month. And I remember one night talking to my business partner saying, man, imagine when we can get 15,000 cards. Imagine when we 3 times this, what that's going to do for our business. Today we issue just over 100,000 cards a month. But those days we were like, oh my gosh, imagine if we can just get 10. But we had this goal, we had this growth, we had this idea. So the third stage that we're going to go to, now you're established, right? So we had a product that was starting to go to. I'll tell you one story. I remember driving up to one of they have these big commissary goods providers that do banking software for jails and other industries. It was a $2.3 billion company. And I remember driving up there with my business partner, my good friend from high school, from grade school. In 8th grade, we were milking cows at dairies next to each other. And we both drove up to this billion-dollar company and said, can you believe that 2 dairy farmers are walking into this company to tell them about our idea? And to walk out of there and sell that, it was exhilarating. Like, that's a pretty cool experience because we had kind of started establishing ourselves. So we'll go to the next slide. You've got to stay focused, all those things that we just talked about. So level 3 is an interesting level because now you're starting to establish yourself. I call it becoming a thought leader in the market. A thought leader in the market means that people start looking to you to innovate and what's innovative in the markets. So they start looking to you to say, what's coming new? What's Rapid doing new? What are they doing in this industry? So we had started having quite a bit of success. We went to 10,000, 15,000, 20,000, 60,000 cards. And then we started going to these conferences and these shows, and they would say, man, you guys do great in this particular niche, this particular industry, but we have these jurors that get done with jury duty and we're sending them checks like 7 weeks later. And the checks aren't getting cashed. They're for like $30. They're not getting cashed. It is a disaster for us. You guys seem to be pretty innovative on this. Do you have a solution for that? And we, of course, said, like all the rest of you would say if you're entrepreneurs, yes, we have a solution for that. Did we have a solution for that? No. But we did say, all right, we can figure this out. We're gonna figure this out. And so we started expanding our vision. We started saying, okay, what are the needs? What are the problems? What's the pain point that exists here, which is a key point for business? What's the pain point that you're solving? And the pain point was mainly from an administrative standpoint. It was a pain for these clerks, these county clerks, these administrators, all these people. It was a pain for them to administrate this program. So we expand our network. We started saying, well, we've got 1,400 counties that we're servicing on this side of the industry. Let's take that relationship and leverage it to something else. And so business started growing for us. It took off. This is our fastest growing product now. It's growing at 4x year over year right now on court funds because it's so prevalent, it's so needed in the industry. But I want to point out this is the point I was talking to Ken earlier and Landon. This is not, I've put a nice little slide together and we're getting it done in 30 minutes, but it is not a process that happens overnight or over years. This is a process that you have to stay focused on your why, focused on your vision, where you're going and what you're trying to accomplish. That's the whole piece. And you've got to pace yourself. But at this point, right here, a lot of small business owners get to this point, right? They'll make it this far. Now, I shouldn't say a lot. It's still, the odds are against you, but there are several that get to this point where maybe their cars are paid off. Maybe they bought a home. Maybe some things like that are happening. And you say, oh, this is a pretty good gig. This is a pretty nice thing going. I'm challenging you not to get stuck here. But I know it's challenging because we have so many friends that have started businesses, and they're, like a close friend of mine has a landscape business. He did really well. He's got a nice little lifestyle business. He's making a decent living. He's got 10 or 15 employees, and he's got landscape trucks out there, and he's got different things like that. And he's got a little bit of freedom, and he's saying, this is good, right? To me, I'm like, yeah, that's great, but that's not what I want. You're still stuck there. You're still part of this thing. You're still involved in that. You're still stuck. The only value you've created is what your name basically in the business. And so in order to really expand beyond that, you've got to figure out how to franchise that maybe, or to do other things like that really creates ultimate freedom. So don't get stuck. I guess you can get stuck here. I shouldn't say don't. If you want to get stuck there, you can get stuck there. I don't mean it as a negative thing, but if you're making a lifestyle and it's good, you're still an entrepreneur. You're still doing well. For me, that's not where we wanted to be. We didn't want to just be court funds and release. We said, hey, we want to do more. So that's where we really start moving into to the pyramid level 4. Now you're becoming an expert in the industry. You're to the point where everyone wants to come to your booth at a conference and say, what are you guys doing next? What's the next thing that's happening? What's Rapid doing next? And competition's starting to see you, and they're starting to look at you, and they're wanting to compete. Maturity and flexibility is up here. Again, this is not my words, this is his. And I loved what he said around that. He said maturity and flexibility is more around your ability to be mature as a leader and your ability to be flexible as a business and find those other opportunities. But maturity as a leader means you're not so worried about your employees that are coming up, that you're nurturing and growing. You're not so worried about some of those things. I'll show you what I'm talking about in just a second. So this is the point where you're really transformative. This is where your business is really moving. And I showed this product. So this product is a text to pay solution that you can basically get a text message that says, Iron County has just paid you, and you can click on that text, and in seconds you can have that money in your bank account. So we launched this a fully digital program for large courts, for large industries that we service. This is key for them. Cards become a real deterrent for them. They're hard. You've got to hand them out. You've got to do these things. People may not cash out their card, may not use that card, but people keep their cell phone numbers. That's one of the things we've learned in life is as we move from carrier to carrier, as we move out, I still have the same cell number that I had when I was here in Cedar City. It's gone with me the whole time. So if we can get cell phone numbers, we can text them and they can get paid and people will claim their funds. So that's this product also, we're starting to launch it into property management for those of you that are renting an apartment here. Getting your security deposit returned. You don't have to worry about a check from the landlord. You don't have to worry about those things. It can just come through a text message to your cell phone and you can claim it instantly. But this is where we're really being transformative. We're really saying, okay, where's our business going in the future? Where's it going to move? Where's our business going to move? You are starting to attract investors. You are getting more oriented on your opportunities. And it's kind of fun when you have your first investor call as a business. That's a fun moment. When you're like a farm boy from northern Utah and you're like, wow, somebody's willing to give me $1 million for my business or $5 million for my business? Like, holy cow, this is awesome. This is cool. But you got to have your goal in mind. You got to focus. You got to say, okay, am I ready now? Am I ready in the future? Where's that point? But you're starting to have a profit. You're now going through, you're now really a thought leader in the market. You've established yourself. You're an expert there. I talked about maturity and flexibility. This is, delegation is a critical thing. For probably 5 years, 6 years at Rapid, I ran customer service as well as operated our company and ran our dev groups. And I would take all of the escalated calls. I would pick up the phone and take all the escalated calls. I would do all the things that you know about because I was so afraid of handing that off to somebody else. Are they going to treat the customer like I would? Are they going to do those kinds of things? But as a leader, you have to start learning the value in delegation. For me, titles mean nothing. I know we announced my title, but that doesn't mean anything to me. That doesn't mean anything because I know what I do and I know the value other people bring to me. And so, but other people do care about titles. So at times I give people titles that they want and we agree and it's fine. But the idea is that you're delegating them responsibility and they're growing. One of the coolest things about our business, Rapid, is we're still pretty small in the grand scheme of things. We've got 35 full-time employees. And it is so cool to have other people that are now starting their own businesses and they're doing their own things. Like it's fun. It's fun for us. So anyway, I do want to move on because I want to have enough time for questions. So let's move on to freedom. For me, this is the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is freedom. And freedom for me, we'll go to the next slide just fast, Landon, if you will. All the late nights are done. I don't want to highlight those things as much, but for me in my life, one of the things that's most important for me is to move from just being success to a significant life. Like I want to give back. I want to for me, that is something that's important to me. And at this level, at entrepreneurship, you've done it. You've hit that pinnacle. You do have the freedom. We do have the freedom to be able to, I'm blessed to be able to be making income right now while I'm talking to you, and it's not because SUU is paying me. I'm blessed that our business is growing without me. I've got people around me that are unbelievably successful. They've started their own businesses. We pride ourselves in the fact that within our little core of businesses, there's probably 40 other companies that have been started by other of our employees, not competitive businesses, but other businesses that they've been passionate about. And we've helped them see that same thing. But really, you're free to be who you want to be. For us, it's an exit. I'm hoping now, we're getting close. I'm hoping that we're able to exit our business and be able to create some of these other significant things in my life that are important. Start other businesses, obviously, but something for me, that's what freedom is for me. And so anyway, that's kind of a little bit about our business and who we are today. And I do want to turn it over for questions.
Yeah, questions. About 5 minutes.
Don't be scared.
Right, you're ready.
Awesome.
So Rapid pretty much made the first kind of Venmo, right? But how do you guys compete with Venmo and PayPal and direct deposit?
Yeah, we wish that so there's a company called Hyperwallet that started the same time we did, and they took a better approach than we did. One of the things I didn't mention, thank you for, I'll get to your question in just a second, is I was working other jobs while we were trying to get this thing going. And if my business partner hadn't been, I feel like we would be in a much better place today. We're about 18 million in revenue right now as a company, which is good. It's tough to get to this point. But Hyperwallet came out at the same time we did, and they had the grander vision, and it was because we were limited. We were limited in our ideas. The way we compete really is Venmo All those other businesses just come and tell you, here's Venmo, you have to do it our way. We're saying, tell us your problem, tell us your pain point, we will create a niche platform and a solution that solves your problem for what you need. So when it comes to municipalities and others of these, they don't want to work through a Venmo and open source. They want to know that there's control of these funds and that they have the ability. So we find niche markets, and there's a lot of them out there, where Venmo and other places, PayPal and those places, don't really want to play in that space. They don't want to do what we're doing because they don't see the value in it. They're playing in hundreds of millions, we're playing in millions. It's a great question though. Think about it all the time.
That point of pride that you take with all the other employees you have that have started their own businesses on the side, are you guys buying in and helping them with startup funds?
It depends. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. We certainly will mentor them, we'll certainly coach them and stuff. It's yes and no, ultimately is the end of the answer. So I would do more, and we would do more probably in some cases, depending on their business type and what they want from us. I'm not specifically strong about, hey, I'm going to give you this and I expect this in return. I want them to be successful. I want them to follow their passions. Sometimes their passions are not my passion. So I can help a mentor, and maybe some funds, a little bit of funds, but. Sorry.
Does the court thing and the jail one, is that all over the country or is that just in Utah?
Yeah, no, so surprisingly, we have the state of Utah for corrections. We don't have it for for the court stuff, which is funny. We're still here in Utah, but we're in 34 states right now as a company. So unfortunately, not in Utah. Utah's got a messed up system. So we've tried, but we'll eventually get them, but.
When you say exit, do you mean like retire? Do you mean like another company that you're more passionate about? What is
So it's a great point. My wife actually said you probably ought to explain what exit means. So thank you. You answered her. I'm like, I'm sure they'll understand. I'm just kidding. So exit for me, like we're in the process of selling our business. We're working to try to sell our business, and for me, that's the point for me where I don't feel like I have the ability, whether it's the experience or the learning or the mental capacity to take this to the next level. Our business needs to go to 100 million. And so there was a point for us, and we've had this conversation as business partners several times throughout our growth, where you say somebody else is gonna have to come in that has way more bandwidth, way more experience to take this business to that next level. And for me, we're at that point where we have really three founders, three executives that have gotten it to the point of 18 million. And we're just like, for us to get to 100, we can't do this. So we either try to go out and hire, and I think we've got some skills, or you try to look at the market and say, hey, this is a business that's strategic in this marketplace, has more funds, more stuff than we have available to us, and so the exit would mean that we sell or are acquired by another industry. And normally that means it's a partial, like they keep you still are part of it and all that kind of stuff. But that to me is freedom, because what I want to do, I already told you, eventually I want to be a professor. I want to sit in a classroom and I want to talk to you guys, and I want to invest in businesses. I want to be able to help students. I want to help people be able to invest in their businesses and grow those businesses. So that to me that's fun, freedom for me, and living a life more of significance for me.
One more question.
How do you guys cybersecurity for so many different types or variations?
All right, you hit it. What I worry about the most. I don't worry about Venmo. I don't worry about that. I worry about that. Cybersecurity for us is a major, major concern. It is the biggest risk we have in our business. And if you ask why I'd exit, it's probably because the bigger we get, the bigger that risk is, and it's scary. And so we manage it through, because we're audited all the time, because we have cardholder information, we have personal information from everybody. But we hire staff around us and we find the best tools that we can out there. I mean, the answer is we've got a whole team that manages that, but it's scary. That is a scary thing. In our world, there are hackers out there all of the time. One very quick story that I'll tell you. One night I remember somebody figured out our card sequencing, and they were using they were creating fake cards, and they were using them all throughout the United States. And I was sitting there watching our account balances just get drained. and it is, and being able to do literally nothing about it other than start getting on phone with people that are smarter than me. And it's a scary moment. It was a scary, scary moment. I'll never forget that night. I was walking, my daughter was playing softball, probably on Mikkel's team, in 6th grade, and I was walking up and down while they were playing softball, tracking on my phone as account balances were getting drained and trying to close accounts quick enough. So anyway, so yeah, cybersecurity is a very concern. It's huge. In this world, it's a very big deal. So
Awesome. Let's give Brad another round.
thank you guys.